play this audio for you to generate where the NFF was called out by this particular guy, and this was where everything started, and this was where everyone and every discussion about the FIFA project and FIFA disbursement into NFF and how NFF has mismanaged those funds with it over the years.
So still on the response wey as amend dey release wey dey talk say I dey spread misinformation say all the money wey dey receive from CAF and FIFA say na for specific project and specific purposes and say they dey use the funds judiciously. I don tell them make dem come out make dem tell us wetin be those specific project and those specific purposes, and I go tell you why dem no go fit ever come out tell una wetin be those specific projects and those specific purposes. So on this FIFA Forward project wey don dey go on for some time now, and they are currently on the third phase of that project. In 2015, FIFA gave Nigeria a 2.5 million grant, $2.5 million grant. But the International Center for Investigative Reporting do their own investigation about these funds and how NFF take spend them. Make I show una the report wey come from ICIR and how dem take investigate how this money wey for specific project and specific purposes take go. So the report read, in 2015, FIFA released a 2.5 million grant to Nigeria as part of its FIFA assistance program. The money was to be dedicated to football developmental programs in the country. The use of the grant, which was disbursed in 5 tranches between May and October 2015, raised eyebrows at FIFA. The governing body expressed concern over a lack of transparency, noting that the NFF leadership was unable to prove that the funds were not fraudulently expended. So the report still continues. FIFA also bemoaned that the fact that the funds were not used for the approved programs. Consequently, PwC carried out a review and presented its findings to FIFA in October 2016. In its findings, PwC said it detected circumstances which may indicate or lead to a misuse of funds, and also noted that in several cases, the use of FIFA developmental funds could not be traced to supporting documents or failed to align with FIFA prescribed purposes. We detected a misuse of funds or other non-compliance with FIFA regulations. These findings require immediate action. And also, according to this report, according to this report again, the NFF made disbursements in cash, and as such, it could not be determined if the final recipient actually received the funds. Furthermore, the report noted that 9 cases totaling over $800,000 were identified where there was no supporting documents to substantiate the subsequent disbursements. This is a report from ICIR over the funds wey NFF received for 2015 to invest in football development for Nigeria.
All right, so that is the genesis of the discussion we have for you today on the program, and that was coming from C Mobike, and you can check his handle right there on Twitter. And that allegations of NFF, of course, that a particular story from that guy calling out the NFF, gained traction, and it trended a lot in for a couple of days now. It's been trending, and of course, it's been also gone to the House of Reps, the National Assembly as well, and they have been discussing about that particular message and investigative report. Now, let's also we'll be calling our guest right now on the show, and I'll be calling, and the name of our guest today is Jerry Musa, a former broadcaster for AIT, sportscaster, and is outside the country now, and is also one of the he's now a PR for an international firm. So we'll be dissecting, and of course we will be having a long discussion about this particular matter coming from NFF and FIFA. Yeah, welcome. Our caller, our guest is on the call right now, and we are connected already. Jerry Musa, welcome to the game today, and this is Overt Radio, and this is the game, and welcome to the program. It's been a while, and feels good to be talking to you again. Welcome to the game.
Thank you so much, Temple. Incredibly excited to be here today.
Hi, listeners, wherever you're listening, welcome to the game. Of course, Primo says right here, as well as Sample.
All right, Jerry. So I want to be bringing you to the discussion we have for you today, and what we have for you is about the NFF. Of course, the NFF and FIFA's brouhaha that's been going on for some days now, where he was called out by that guy on X. He was called out, and then everything, of course, we know how it's going right now about the allegations. Now, in this report, now it was stated that allegations involving the NFF, $25 million grant probe from 2015 to 2025 in October 2025. Nigeria's House of Representatives has started a launch, has launched an investigation rather into the NFF over allegations of misusing grants totaling more than $25 million from FIFA and the Confederation of African Football (CAF). And so it's about the failed FIFA Goal project. There have been multiple controversies regarding FIFA-funded infrastructure projects that were never completed or were constructed to a substandard quality. We have one from Kirby Mini Stadium. The NFF spent, according to them, they spent $1.2 million on a mini stadium in Benin Kirby that critics describe as substandard and unfinished. So in an October interview, former NFF president, which I recently interviewed, he came out to deny the mismanagement. So what's your view about this back and forth between NFF, FIFA, and of course the Goal projects since 2015 to 2025?
It's just very ridiculous that such a case is being discussed on national radio. Unfortunately, so it also goes further to dent the image of the country at a time where Nigeria is struggling to rebuild its brand globally. Nigeria is trying to also struggle and shrug off that corruption brand that has been forced on us. You don't know exactly how ridiculous it gets until you try to step out of the shore of Nigeria and you travel out of the country and you listen to people from other countries of the world describing your country as one of the most corrupt in the world. When they ask Nigeria, the next thing that comes up is how ridiculous the corruption and how unbelievable it is. How corrupt the officials are. So it's just incredibly disturbing that at a time like this we still have to grapple with such stories making the headlines and becoming major stories on national radio, unfortunately. So I also saw pictures flying around of the Berlin KB mini stadium. I'm sure if critical investigations are carried out, perhaps we'll complete that project. Well, I can't even say that completed because the word complete and that stadium I saw are not supposed to be in the same sentence. I would say the amounts that actually was used to build that particular pitch would not probably be more than 25-30 million now. Of course, the $1.2 million was spent on that. Huge question marks on the integrity of Ibrahim Musa Gusau, the NFF chairman. Huge question marks on the integrity of those who make up the entire board of the NFF at this critical time. Huge question mark also on the integrity of the sports commission, chairman of the sports commission, Sheikh Otiko. A friend of mine. But of course, as members of the fourth estate of the realm, we have to say the way it is and call out all those who must be called out when such a scandal of that magnitude hits. So all those individuals that have been mentioned must face the music, must be called to order, must be called to questions, must give adequate explanations of how this amount was spent, and why, if they were spent, why must they? It's about misappropriation. We're not saying you were corrupt or you embezzled. Well, if you say you didn't embezzle, why did you spend that huge amount of money on particular, substandard purpose? So either way, whether or not they were embezzled, questions must still be asked and heads must still roll.
literally.
That brings me to this question, Jerry. Um, we've had cases as this in the past. We've had ex-players calling out NFF. We've had ex-professionals as well who has played in the game. Now, most recently, we heard Sunday Olise, former captain, indicting the NFF then about a particular amount of money that was supposed to be paid for qualifying Nigeria for the 2002 World Cup that wasn't paid to them. And he also made mention of misappropriation of funds from the NFF that has been systemic from the onset, which is not something that has happened even now. It has been in the system. And so that which brings me with heads role, considering the fact that these board members of NFF they were elected via the FAs, and is not just something the government can just interfere. And FIFA frowns at government interference when it comes to football matters. So how do you think these can be handled, and how do you think those officials who have been found wanting, including Amaju Pinnick, who was the former NFF president, who passed the mantle to Shehu Guzo, how do you think this can be handled properly, and perhaps those funds are probably channeled properly into the right direction?
Yeah, I understand that the Senate Committee on Sports is already beaming their searchlights on this,
yes,
investigating, and has called for an investigation of this matter. So yes, it's already under investigation, so there's a little bit of scope regarding how much we can deliberate over it. We're just going to be waiting for the results of the investigation and the results of the findings to be out, to be made public, and then we can comment based on the results of the investigations we find that we get. However, these individuals are on, tenure, and it's about 4 years, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So once the tenures, run out, yes, one of the, realities, or one of the standards to be taken against them is to ensure they do not qualify for a re-election.
Okay.
Because incompetence, and
okay,
yes, if they are found guilty of misappropriation of funds after these investigations are completed, then they may not be eligible to stand re-election. 1, 2, if they are found to be culpable, they might also get prosecuted. They might get prosecuted for embezzlement, and the EFCC themselves might be invited to take a more critical look at the case and prosecute individuals. Of course, that means likely jail terms might just be awaiting them. But like you said, this is Nigeria. We know it's not a one-man thing. If the monies were misappropriated, then you can guess very well, just like I guess at the moment, that not one person probably embezzled, not one person probably misappropriated.
Yeah.
It's a ring of carcass of criminality,
yeah,
systemic, like you mentioned. So
yeah,
we're talking about the entire NFF board, talking about who's the the chairman of the sports commission, and some other big names within the corridors of football and sports generally in Nigeria. So it's basically going to be resulting into a total overhaul of the system, which some of the stakeholders, especially in the press, have been.
Hello, you there?
In square holes.
Okay.
They are misfits. They absolutely got no experience whatsoever. They have no competences to even find themselves in those corridors in the first place. That's why they can't empathize with players. That's why players can go on strike.
Exactly.
In Nigeria, that's why players can beg for win bonuses and allowances due them. They're not asking for extras, just their dues.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's why players can go on hunger strike, and players can retire or even get called to glory, and they get shabby posthumous celebrations. They can't empathize because we're never footballers. They can't empathize because they're not stakeholders. They're not genuine stakeholders. They have nothing to lose. They're just politicians who find themselves connected to one person or the other, and then they find themselves in the quarters of football. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the reports by the Senate House. I don't want to preempt them. I want them to carry out their duties and investigations duly and diligently. After that, I will probably know what to say. But of course, Nigerians already have a big question mark on these individuals, and regardless what the results or the outcomes of the investigations are, this is a very big dent on the image of Nigeria.
But regardless of the investigation, is that not government interference, considering the fact that government or football matters and government are not supposed to be put side by side? So the question now is, isn't that going to be interference from government if they are prosecuted? Why not FIFA carry out the sanction themselves?
To the best of my knowledge, the president of the NFF is not a politically, it's not the president of Nigeria, and these are the individuals that enjoy immunity. Governors, presidents of, nations enjoy immunity. So when they're in office, you cannot prosecute. There's a non-prosecute, clause on their
contract,
whatever. But for these individuals, there's nothing like non-prosecute. Okay. They can be prosecuted while being NFF president. They can be prosecuted while being chairman of sport commission. They can be prosecuted, and they did call to question to come to account for the EFCC. It is a serious indictment of misappropriation of funds. So that, in my opinion, would never be deemed as government interference. We've got structures in Nigeria as a nation with a sovereign country, and if an arm of the government, a law enforcement agency or anti-crime agency finds reasonable culpability among NFF officials, I believe they can be called to action, and of course they can be prosecuted.
All right. Considering the state of football in Nigeria, recently youth teams have been underperforming both on the continent and on in the world stage. Most recently the under-17 ladies who lost woefully. 4 goals to nil in their last game, and they were knocked out of that competition. And we also had the under-17 guys, they didn't qualify. We also had the under-20 guys, they also played and did not make it past the second round. Now, all of this misappropriation has been one of the causes of these underperformance from these sides, especially when it comes to underage football in Nigeria. And we know for sure that these monies are supposed to be channeled to some of the development of the game, especially age grade competitions in the country. So now that this is coming up, and I know it's going to die down one way or the other, it's going to die down. And hello, are you there? Hello, are you there? All right, I said one way or another, it's going to die down, and they might not even get prosecuted at the end of the day. But what do you think can be done? What do you think FIFA can do to curb all of this? Because it all boils down to FIFA, and FIFA are the ones releasing these funds to the NFF. So how can FIFA channel these monies to the right people and to the right places? Because football is suffering in Nigeria. There's no development. There's no better infrastructure. And this is affecting the development of the game in the country.
Yeah, well, if you want justice, want fairness, equity, equality, and money spent appropriately, FIFA is the last body you want to call to come assist in ensuring that. As much as FIFA, as long as they're concerned, they have NFF officials in Nigeria who work with FIFA, who are answerable to FIFA. FIFA may not actually come out to say these are principles, these are the rules, the guidelines that we've set in place to ensure these funds are used appropriately. No, they're just going to be distributing the money. As far as they're concerned, they've sent money to Nigeria, and that's what counts. And who told you in the first place that FIFA themselves are 100% clean? I'm not calling, I'm not trying to undermine their integrity, but okay. I'm sure you remember the name Sepp Blatter, right?
Yes, I do. Former FIFA president.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remember Sepp Blatter? You remember exactly? You remember the infamous story of corruption and misappropriation of funds himself? That's a former FIFA president. So I'm not sure that FIFA would look for a way to help Nigerians. They're not looking for the interest of Nigerians, so to say. They just want due process. And what's the due process? The NFF gets funds allocated to Nigeria and disperses it whichever way they like. It now depends on whether or not Nigerian sport journalists will allow this to rest. I like the fact that we're talking about those things, we're bringing it in the ears of those who matter, and we are blowing out the press so everyone can the glass house, infamous glass house, and of course we can keep talking about it till those who are in authority start doing the right thing. But FIFA will come down to Nigeria to assist us. We are the ones who have our house. We must put it in order.
All right. If you just tuned in, this is still Overt Radio with me, Akan, and I have my guest Jerry Musa all the way from. Where are you calling from? I can recall the last time you were in Asia. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm currently roaming. At the moment, I'm in the UK. I might just be in Dubai the next day.
Okay. All right. So you're hearing from our guest, and his name is Jerry Musa, former broadcaster and AIT and Reaper, and of course he's outside the country now doing it for an international brand. Of course he's also a PR person for an international brand out there. And thank you for joining us, Jerry.